Hey everyone, and welcome back to my channel. And of course, for those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Raquel and I am a Vedic sidereal astrologer. I am back yet again with another monthly energy forecast video for you all. I recently did one for April telling you about all the great changes that would be taking place in the sky and how it affects us here on planet Earth. Is that where we're at? Anyhow, when there's so many planets moving, that creates a big shift in our world and in our lives. So, since last month 3 planets moved, on top of the fact that we are in the middle of a eclipse season, with the solar eclipse already taking place on April 30th, we have another lunar eclipse taking place this month. All that change creates a shift in energy. And this energy is something that we will be able to feel in our minds and witness in our lives, in our world around us. But because of that, change is something that's not always easy for everyone to process and adapt to. It's something that makes deep impressions in our psyche, and sometimes that manifests as confusion, fear, uncomfortability, paranoia even, because there's so much uncertainty. But that's one of the reasons I come here every month, giving you guys little insights and clues on what is happening in the sky and draw the parallels to our lives. So let's listen in and find out what insights and guidance the planet and stars has for us in the month of May 2022. Before we get into this video, I do want to ask that if you feel that you have received any value from the content that I make or even this video, please press the like button and subscribe to my channel. Also hit that bell notification so that you can be notified when I upload future videos. And if you're feeling very moved, I do have a new link down below where you're able to give a love offering in support of me and this channel. So with that being said, let's get into it. The month of May is like part 2 of April. So many changes took place in April, as I mentioned in my previous monthly energy forecast video. And because of that, it's connected to this month. The two are all about the pivot, the shifts. Especially the end of April, when Saturn moved into Aquarius and we had our first solar eclipse in Aries. Saturn in Aquarius met up with Mars, and Mars and Saturn are enemies. This is because they have 2 different modes of operating. Mars is about speed, initiation, about swift action. But sometimes it has a hard time staying its course and burns out quickly because it's so much gusto in the beginning, which is great for initiation, not so great for longevity. And that's where Saturn's specialty comes in. Saturn is about slow, steady progression. It asks you to be strategic and methodical in your approach. Very different from Mars. And because these 2 energies are situated in one house, they're pulling on opposite ends. And what happens? As above, so below. Therefore, we can feel that internal friction and frustration. We may have things that we feel we need to move forward in and take action, but Saturn is saying slow and steady wins the race. It's very much a great Saturn and Mars is like the tortoise and the hare, you know? And so with that in mind, know that if you aren't seeing things progress as quickly as you want them to be, there are reasons for this. And we're going to get into that more in just a bit. From May 10th to June 3rd, we're going to be having Mercury retrograde. I know, it's everyone's favorite time, right? But if you learn how to utilize Mercury's retrograde, you'll actually see that Mercury is quite the blessing. Because when the planet Mercury goes retrograde, it is asking us to pause and move backwards just like it appears in the sky, which, by the way, Mercury really doesn't move backwards. It's an optical illusion. It's the way our minds are perceiving the celestial bodies. And so to us, it appears to be moving backwards. And that's just because of the speed of the other planets. Okay, sorry for getting technical. Bring it back. When Mercury retrogrades, it's asking us to do the the reevaluating, the reflecting, revising, redoing. It's asking you to take a second look. There might be something that you miss, something that if you incorporated or took some action could make the situation and the movement forward a lot easier and better. And that's how Mercury is a blessing when it goes retrograde. This month, Mercury is retrograding in Taurus. Taurus is ruled by Venus. Mercury and Venus, they're friends. So this is a nice placement. However, whenever Mercury retrogrades in a sign, the function of what that sign should be giving us is a little wonky. It's a little off. It's asking for our attention. So where's our attention needing to be? Taurus represents the second house. These are all the things that sustain us, like food, family, values, finances, like money, even our speech. So wherever Taurus falls in your chart, that's where you want to take a look, because that's where Mercury is saying, hey, I need your attention here. I need you to look at this again. Give it a second glance. There's something you may have overlooked. There might be something there that needs your healing. In that same chart of yours, your birth chart, see if there's any planets that are situated in Taurus. If there is, find out what houses does that planet rule? Through its signs, of course. That's going to give you an idea of other parts, not just that one house, but the other houses that those planets rule. You'll also want to look at where Libra is, because that's the other Venus sign. And these are all little clues to let you know what is Mercury asking you to consider, think about, contemplate, and reflect upon. And for the collective, we're all going to be reflecting on second house Taurus themes. This is something to note and always remember when Mercury goes retrograde. There are several things that Mercury rules, and you'll want to be mindful of these things whenever Mercury retrogrades. 1, if you're making travel plans, make sure you have all your documents lined up and you've planned very, very well. Prepare for delays, potential delays. So go early, take your time, and make sure that you are diligent in crossing your T's and dotting your I's. Mercury also rules electronic devices. So make sure you back up your devices and take good care of them. Our modern cars now run on computer chips, so make sure your car is up to date with its service. And since Mercury is going to be in a Venus sign, I'd hold up on those commitments that you want to make to someone in particular, or a commitment that you want to make. Oh my goodness, you guys, contracts. If you can avoid signing contracts when Mercury is retrograde, that is a really good. Sometimes you're not going to be able to, especially right now when things are pushing us to make decisions and choices for our lives and our new path. But if you can, avoid signing any contracts or making any major purchases. These are kind of like guidelines for any Mercury retrograde. On May 15th to June 15th, the sun will be in Taurus. Yes, this is officially Taurus season, all right? Why? Because sidereally, the sun will be in the constellation of Taurus. And this is where now we get to enter the space of Taurus energy. And that is the second house energy. That's Venetian energy. Now, the sun is an enemy to Venus. Therefore, it's not so comfortable in this placement, in this sign. Taurus is a fixed sign. While that's great for establishing things and providing a grounding structural effect, in times of change, you want to be able to be fluid. And this is where that feeling of resistance can come. And why I'm sharing with you all the energy that's present so that you can be mindful to remain fluid. As I mentioned, April and May is all about the pivoting, the shift. And for that to take place with ease, flow with it and try not to resist the changes that are coming. The other thing is that Mercury is retrograde in Taurus, where the sun will be. So, like I mentioned, this is the area where we need to slow down anyways. Not that it's a problem. Taurus usually moves at a slower pace. But it's a place where we're needing to reflect. It's a place where we should slow down and kind of consider things before moving forward. On May 15th, we will have a lunar eclipse in the nakshatra of Vishaka. This is a portion of the sky that is situated at the end of Libra and the beginning of Scorpio. It's a bridging nakshatra. In fact, it is depicted as a fork in the path. Because of this, there will be some important decision that will need to be made around this time and the month of May that is going to be pivotal. The choices that you make in May will have a lasting effect for at least the next 6 months. And for some of you, the next year and a half, as this is where the nodes Rahu and Ketu are in Aries and Libra. And if you want more information about the nodes or the planets that moved in April, check out my links down below. I have them all listed so that it could give you a better insight in what I'm talking about in regards to May. I'm gonna make another video regarding the eclipse because if I try to incorporate all that information in this one, it's just gonna be way too long. So moving along. Now from May 17th to June 27th, Mars will be transiting in the sign of Pisces. Pisces is right now with its Lord, Jupiter. And it's also with Venus, who exalts in the sign of Pisces. So Pisces is really charged up with a lot of energy. And here comes Mars with all its energy ready to kick up some dust. Mars has an amicable relationship with Jupiter. However, it is an enemy to Venus. So this has an interesting little feel to it. Mars is not the most comfortable in Pisces because Mars is a fire sign and Pisces is a water sign. So what happens if you put water on fire? Yeah, it extinguishes it. And Mars is that gusto factor. It's what gives us that momentum, that drive, that motivation. And if we're putting water on it, it's kind of like douses it. It's kind of like we become a little lazy and lacking motivation, which is kind of continuing the theme because in Saturn, it's feeling restricted and frustrated and even irritable. It's going to transition into the sign of Pisces. And here it's in its watery sign where it's lethargic. However, Mars does really well in Pisces for one particular thing, and that is for fighting a righteous battle. And how interesting it is that right after the solar eclipse, the courts overturned Roe versus Wade, a women's right issue. Now, if you remember my Rahu and Ketu video, links down below, you'll remember that I mentioned that we're kind of having a cycled effect of what took place in the 60s with the love revolution and the flower power and the civil rights. And yes, women's rights. That was a huge movement in the 60s, early 60s, with the same positioning of Saturn and Jupiter. And here we are, time forward, because life is secular continuum, cycling over the theme of what took place in the 60s. And here, Mars is going to fight for what Jupiter is about. Jupiter is the one who makes the laws. It is the planet responsible for morals and ethics. Venus represents women. And Mars is the fighter. It's the god of war. So there's going to be a battle, all culminating in Pisces. The other really nice thing about Mars and Pisces is while it can make some lazy, here we want to apply the Saturn principle. And if you're a person who practices any type of austerities or sadhana, then you might be used to having a disciplined life already. And this is why we get to benefit from the practice of discipline, a Saturn principle that gives us the consistency that is developed through a sadhana or a spiritual discipline. Pisces is a spiritual sign. When Mars transits here, we're able to cultivate and make a lot of progress spiritually. We can go deep in our sadhana. And we're also able to apply those principles of discipline and consistency to our everyday life. Slow and steady wins the race. Mars likes a very clear target, and then applies all its energy and fight to go after that. It's fueled by the fire. It's a fire sign. But when the fire is extinguished, we have that lack of motivation, that lack of drive and will. So, apply the Saturn principle. May 23rd to June 28th, Venus will be transiting in the sign of Aries. And if you remember what I mentioned, Mars rules Aries, and Mars is an enemy to Venus. When Venus is in Aries, she's not in the best dignity, so it's a little difficult for her to express the highest of her capabilities. Venus represents relationships, women, wealth, beauty, creativity. And because of this, those are things that you don't want to be too rash or hasty with. But when Venus is in Aries, that's the mood that she's in. And with Mercury retrograde, those are things that you don't want to be too hasty or rash in making your decisions. Because she's bringing that Mars energy. Venus being about wealth and beauty and creativity. Here, it can make one indulgent. It can make someone very passionate, very lustful. And so because of that, there might be impulse purchases. There's a high sex drive with lack of discernment. Too hasty makes poor decisions. Here, when Venus expresses herself through the sign of Aries, she brings that energy of Mars and puts combative, the god of war and fighting into relationships. Do you see why she's an enemy? Because that's not what you want. Venus represents harmony and peace for diplomacy. And when it's in the sign of Mars, it's hard to achieve that because that's only going to make tension and fighting, conflict in your relationships. Why? Because sometimes it's a matter of alpha. Who's the alpha in this? It's the egos that want to battle for dominance because that's what Aries likes. Aries likes to be number one and is the leader. It's the general, is it not? Also, as I mentioned, Venus being a sign of luxury, wealth, and beauty, especially because we have the planets moving into the sign of Taurus, which is ruled by Venus, making us all feel very indulgent. And while Venus is in the sign of Aries, we make sudden decisions without thinking them through. Decisions because we're having a high sex drive. What are the ramifications of those actions? We're here spending impulse buying on things that we just desire because it's in a Mars sign, really amplifying that passion and Rajas energy, that desire. And as I mentioned, could be also in conflict in our relationships. All things to keep in mind while planet Venus is transiting Aries. Now here's the interesting thing. Saturn while it's in Aquarius, is throwing its third aspect onto Venus when it's in Aries. And as I mentioned, Aries is an enemy to Saturn, so it's not trying to do it any favors over there. It's a friend to Venus. But while it's in its enemy sign, acting out, doing the most, and becoming impulsive, Saturn here, while it's looking at it, is gonna say, I got consequences for you. Why? Because Saturn is a planet of karma. And Saturn is a planet of responsibility. And as I mentioned before, it's about strategizing, it's about planning, it's about slow progression. And if Venus is over there making those sudden impulsive decisions, indulging and not being responsible, Saturn is gonna hit you with consequences real quick. And if they don't happen now, they will take place. So it's something to consider. It's not to make you fearful of Saturn, it's about respecting the balance of things. I got so passionate about that, you guys. I'm a very Saturn-ruled person with in a Venus, a lot of Venus signs. So I am like, I have learned the consequences when you do not respect the Saturn principle. And Saturn is the major player. He's like the king this year. You know, he's ruling it all. Somewhere there, Saturn's always throwing its energy. And so to make it through 2022, you know, with the least amount of scars, it's about respecting Saturn principles. So some things that can help us are, Saturn wants us to put effort and work, especially through its third aspect. Therefore, since it's on Venus, also dealing with relationships, that's an area that we may have to work on. Find out where Venus is landing in your chart, in the sign of Aries, wherever Aries is in your chart. That's the area that you're probably gonna have to put some effort in. That's the area that you're gonna wanna exercise self-control and discipline. So Saturn principles is about accountability, responsibility, diligence, discipline. It's our efforts. It's about working hard. It's about staying committed to the course. Every day, little by little, Saturn is asking you. Saturn is the slowest moving planet. It takes 30 years to cycle through a sign. That's how slow it is. But see, Saturn doesn't deny, it only delays. And so, because of these delays, there could be some frustrations, but just keep in mind what is being asked. See, when I look at a month, like I have to look at it holistically. I have to consider all these elements at play because these are the energies that we're working in. There are several factors this month that are saying, go slow. And if you don't go slow, you're just gonna frustrate yourself. It's asking you to pay attention, Mercury retrograde. Saturn, third aspect. Go slow, pay attention. I'm asking you to revise, review, reflect. I'm asking you to do some healing here. I'm asking you to practice some self-control. Because one thing about Saturn is, man, when Saturn gives its rewards and its blessings for your diligency, it does it in a huge way. Not only does it do it in a huge way, it gives you the results that last. I told you it takes 30 years for Saturn to rotate, right? All the way through signs. It gives you lasting results. That's why some people, when you don't really understand what Saturn's about, you can look at it and shun and curse Saturn, but Saturn is the one that actually gives you that stability and the longevity that we are all looking for when it comes to our success. Now on May 30th, we will have the new moon in also Taurus in the nakshatra of Rohini. This new moon is basically going to be the current of energy going into June. And I'll come back and I'll talk about that. But just to let you know, this is just a matter of tying everything together around that Taurus factor that I mentioned, all those Taurus things, which represents that second house. And because Mercury is retrograding from May into the beginning of June, know that things are going to be a little bit slower, Saturn aspect. Understand, though, that there's going to be a deep desire for us to enjoy ourselves. And that's not saying that you can't enjoy yourself. All it's saying is to be strategic, plan, You know, if you know that you're gonna wanna buy something, put a little money aside from every check, from all your income. Put a little money aside, and then boom. That's a responsible way. That's a Saturn, that's a respect to Saturn's way and Saturn's principle. And you could still have what you want. It's just about being smart, moving with wisdom. Because Saturn is going to try to protect you. Mercury is trying to protect you. All these things, when people get mad about Saturn and Mercury retrograde, it's actually for your best interest. Because had you have gone forward, not reviewing, not reflecting, had you have gone forward impulsive, you would have been reaping the consequences that would have been 10 times worse. But here's these grahas, these planets are here trying to give you the wisdom. And then on top of that, they kind of curb you like bumpers. Like bumpers and bowling. So, one, show a little respect. There's nothing, it grinds my gears. It really does whenever I hear people disrespecting planets, only because, you know, you guys may not believe it, but the planets are alive. They are consciousness. And so they are here for us, for our evolution, for our advancement. And that is grace, even if it feels like adversity or obstacle. I always say that you do not grow through ease and comfort. It's through adversity that we grow. And that's why I give respect and honor to these planets that are here to help make my soul grow, helping us, your soul grow, and helping us grow together and evolve as a collective. So with that being said, I'm gonna bring this to a close. My Sermon on the Mount. You guys know that I'm still having that promotion like I mentioned. It is down in the links down below. It is 1 hour. It's gonna be a live Zoom session with me. I'm gonna go over your chart and the planetary movements and basically what the energy is gonna be like for you in 2022. And not just the energy, but the things that you can anticipate, like the doors that are open to you and the doors that are closed to you and the personal cycle that you're running. So with that being said, I wish you all well. I send my blessings to you all, and I will see you in the next video. Till then, take care.